Hey everybody, my next guest is a singer, actress, DJ, and podcast host. Her latest album, Rock House, is a bold, high energy statement fusing rock, house, pop, and funk into a vibrant, inclusive sonic world. Here she is to tell us all about it is the one and only Jacqueline Real, aka Miss J. What should I call you,
Woo!
Miss J or Jacqueline? Which is it?
Miss J, if you can, but I
Yes.
won't get upset at Jacqueline. You know what I mean? Split personalities.
Yeah. I love the whole split personality Miss J thing. I have a alternate personality too. It's called Survive my rap days.
I'm sick, how sick, so sick, don't get it twisted. Right when motherfuckers don't sleep, you get your ass kicked.
Stop. I'm deceased. I love it. That's what I love about music is, everybody has their own story, and that's what always attracted me to music is it's the universal language, right? I mean, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what you believe in, where it doesn't matter. If you love a good song is a good song. So I love that. I love when I'll talk to people like, oh, in high school I had a reggaeton band, or in
Right.
middle school I was a pop singer. And I'm like, you're still a pop singer.
Right.
It
True.
doesn't go away.
That's what I love about music too, is that A, when you hear a song, it could take you back to a place. Every song has a story. And
hmm
also when you're singing in front of the mirror, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're still that 16-year-old kid rocking out, you know what I mean?
That is so true. And that's probably the other I love. First of all, thank you for that intro. Love it. Love a nice intro.
You rock.
As you said, actor, all the hyphenates, right? I think with the trajectory of acting is a little similar, but in music, what I think is the most freeing is, I just saw Stevie Nicks a few years ago at Bonnaroo killing it. And
Wow, yeah.
I just saw Tush last year, actually around this time, killing it. Those guys are out there, they don't care what they're doing because they're having a good time. And Tush is one of my favorites, and just seeing them gives me all the life and energy. And that's the other beautiful thing about music is no one cares how old you are, and that's
Right,
the
yeah.
beauty because they just want to hear a good song. And I think you see that now with the double-edged sword of social media is these bands that can now go viral again, and now these big classic rock bands are like going on world tours based off of this, and kids who never even heard of, Guns N' Roses or, Def Leppard are now like, oh, I know Def Leppard. And you're
Right.
like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's but you weren't there, but when it was real. But no, I appreciate
Neither was
that.
I, but I love to be sassy about it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I love that we're seeing the music kind of take a second wave. Some of the songs like Teenage Dirtbag had a little phase on Instagram, and We This, shout out to those guys, Long Island based.
Yes.
And then we saw, what's going on. That whole thing took a big surge, and that's a great song. And for kids
Ugh.
to it makes me realize that I don't know what generation you're from. You look very young, but for my generation, it's good to see that the music is kind of standing the test of time. Where you weren't sure if that was going to happen back then.
Right. No, right. And I love the synchronicity of you bringing that song up because actually, as a musician, like 2 years ago, so I wrote my first EP in 2022. Totally just, I mean, I've always been a spoken word poet, I've always been a writer, but putting my words to music was in 2022. I did a lot of soul searching, as we all did through COVID, and a lot of allowing myself to feel free artistically. And I had said to myself, I was like, well, I'm not going to go to a music festival because I'm a festival kid until I'm playing them. And I kind of
Right.
set this good goal for myself. But then I realized I love going to music festivals and it fuels my soul. Artists also sometimes forget this too, that we have to do the things that fuel our souls. And my amazing sister took me to, oh my gosh, I was the See Here Now festival last year, and that's where I saw Tush. And that's where I
Nice.
saw all four non-blondes. And what was so incredible was when she came out, she had said that this was her first time playing in like 20 years because she'd been in the studio. And I actually got to witness her first time playing back. in 20 years. And she was so smart. She played like a touch of that song at the top of the show. So everybody was like, yeah, 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 yeah. But
Yeah.
then she stopped it and then didn't play it until the end of the show. And we got to listen to her whole new album. And then she played it at the end. And I was like taking notes the whole time. And she's one of my idols, and getting to see her and feet in the sand, because see her now is on the beach. And but also that is a trajectory goal of mine. And Rock House came about because Rock House is truly my artistic vision as Miss J. I'm a songwriter in
Right.
nature and at heart. But Rock House, those are my Nashville guys. That is Heffley, my engineer, who is also my producer, now my family. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But this idea of being a songwriting, a demo seller, sync licensing, which is really what she was talking about, because I've followed her. She's been in the studio for forever,
Right.
but allowing yourself the freedom to put yourself back out there artistically. Another artist that does this is Jessie J, who I love, and
Oh
she's
yeah,
written
yeah.
so many songs that people don't know. And then she gets to have her artistic career, and that is kind of the beautiful crux that I am at right now of Jacqueline Rial, the songwriter, BMI publishing, and um, also owning Electric Legacy Music, which is my record deal. And Miss J, kind of, how do I beautifully fuse and yet also let them live their own worlds? Because Jacqueline Rial is, an advocate. She is in a master's program for developmental, went to Columbia, travels, well, Columbia University, but I'm also Colombian
Right.
and Mexican. Travel, like there is a whole world there. And then Miss J is my artistic voice, just that little beautiful layer of people that suffer with insecurities of allowing myself to just fully embrace whatever comes out of my mind and my mouth. And it was amazing to see that last year. And actually, I love that you brought that song up, because that's been a kind of a pinnacle moment. Last year was when I was really deciding to take on learning about sync licensing. If other artists are listening, that's, you see that on film and TV and commercials.
Right.
That's called sync licensing. But that's a business. So, like any entrepreneur knows, anytime you venture into something, that's a whole other business. So, it's been a beautiful journey, and that's why Rock House. Because when they say who is Miss J, and I say Rock House, and they're like, I don't know what that is, and I'm like, I'm developing it. It
Right.
exists, but
Right.
kind of claiming it, because now with the marketing and social media, you go to who are you? Um, that is really my like artistic vision of where the music is going. And we're
Right.
calling it Rock House too, but as we record and keep writing, how do we develop that sound to really get it? We're going to be releasing a few remixes coming up, and really pushing the boundaries on what I want to sound like, because I do it all. And I think even though I cried about TikTok when I first had to get on a few years ago, I think the beauty of it now is people don't care. They fought me on Rock House. You can't have a honky tonk with a disco, with a rock, with a funk. And I said, you can if it's a party. You start the album from the top to the end,
Right.
and everybody saw the vision once it finally came out. And now we're going to really push it even more. And I think that is something that artists now can a little bit breathe on, as an actor. So, what's your type? What's the role? You could only go for those types, only go for those roles.
Right.
Same with music. Beyonce was, that freaked out when she made a house album, and freaked out with a country album. But an artist is an artist. And I think this facade that we do one thing is a facade. I've never met an artist that does one thing. I'm sure you
Right.
don't do one thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think creative people are going to be creative, and like you said, and you don't want to be painted into a genre and all that kind of stuff, because I think then if you get painted into, like, let's say you're a country artist, then it's almost like you can't break free of it. It's because
Hmm.
the expectations are to do this and that, and that's what I think is important about bending the genres and doing your own thing, and despite it all, and you know You mentioned sync licensing, and I see a lot of like independent people getting hit songs out through that. Like they'll have they'll get a song on it to a TV show or something, and then people are like, "Who is that artist?" You know, so that's just another way to get the songs out there. It's not always through radio, you know?
Right. Well, yes. I mean, we could go on a 4 hour tirade on because I'm a classic rock girly. So when I got into this, and when I say got into this, allowed myself to put pen to paper to music, and fought the imposter. COVID allowed me, taking out when we all thought we were going to perish.
Right.
Uh, COVID allowed my world to go. I just graduated from Columbia. People think that those are plan Bs. No, I study developmental and brain plasticity because I suffered with a lot of mental health issues and a lot of therapists. I've worked with shamans, I've worked with scientists. I really kind of went down this beautiful journey that allowed me to get to the point to fight imposter syndrome in COVID when my world went from this to this.
Right.
And what was the fear, right? What is the fear? I mean, we can debilitate ourselves with fear. And like when I made my first EP, again, I'm a classic rock girly. I thought you just went into the studio and recorded it. I had no idea until we were mixing when he was like, "Oh, well, we didn't record to a click." And I was like, "A click?"
Right.
And I
Yeah.
really in the studio, because the studio, once I found the studio, I was like, "Oh, home." I've never felt home until the studio. Um, but it was a learning process, and I really feel that like when I listen to it now, I'm like, wow, like just here we go is the same words over and over again because I was just exploring. But allowing yourself that freedom to try and explore again, I thought you just get the band together and record them. I mean, you think of Jimi Hendrix. My ultimate idol is Jim Morrison, I always say,
Oh,
although I
wow.
still think he's alive in Paris living his best life. But
He
we can
probably is.
we can
And
have
shout
another
out if
three
he's watching.
hours. Shout out, Jim. But I always say I'm Jim incarnate.
Nice.
And that's another thing is that I was always singing guy songs. I did a lot of classic rock covers. And in the beginning, it would, I'd get off stage and my favorite compliment was, I thought you were going to get up there and sing a bunch of Taylor Swift songs because of what I looked like.
Right,
And
right.
then I'm out here singing The Doors, Doobie Brothers, Cream.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I entered this world thinking of that old 70s, 80s. That's how you kind of made it in many ways. And the game couldn't be, I think there's the best meme where it's like, imagine telling Kurt Cobain he had to make content for his singles.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Now it's apples and oranges. You can't do totally different eras and times, but that was hard for me. I, really judged that viewpoint because it is so different. It's a much different way to think of how do I promote myself on top of creation is a lot. But I'm finally on the other side of it and not fighting it and seeing that then the beauty is I had an executive tell me who's been mentoring me say the best thing. He said, it used to be that there were gatekeepers. That was the 70s and 80s. And you
Right.
had to literally know people or have a manager find you in a
Right. Like
bar
the
and they
Clive
developed you.
Davises. Yeah.
Exactly. R.I.P. Clive. And
Yeah. R.I.P.
I know now I'm working with producers and now I'm like hearing stories. I'm like, oh, just casual Clive Davis stories. Um, just casual. But I'm like, oh, ADHD moment. I'm like getting back on track. Where did we go?
Different ways
Oh
of
well.
making music and in different
Oh,
ways. Yeah.
yes.
Because,
So now I'm on the other side of it of seeing that, well, oh, that there we go. Going back to Jimmy Browlower. So he said there were gatekeepers, and watching that brain plasticity in action, gatekeepers. And now the issue is there's a sea of mediocrity, and how do you rise above? And that really like shook me when I heard that like a year and a half ago, because ironically, the talent is actually 20%, and the marketing, the showmanship, the being out there, the fearlessness of being out there, of making 200 TikTok videos, of being on the street making a TikTok video, or randomly being in a place and singing and making an Instagram video. And then you have to ask yourself, are you able? And I was in a Nashville panel because I record so much down there, and he said it best. This was a big booker, and he said, "Listen," because somebody got up and asked that question of social media doesn't matter, and
Right.
he said, "I'm a booker. If you don't want to be in the game, if you don't want to be online, go home because artists will come to me want to book in a music festival and they have 400 followers. How am I going to pick? How am I going to
Yeah.
pitch you?" And that's the reality. And
It's
if you
all
don't want to
about
come to terms with that,
it.
that's just what it is.
It is crazy, and when you look at, like you said, through the history of music or whatever, different ways to make it. Whether back in the day, you got to get the 45 out to the radio guy, and hey everybody, we're here at
Yeah.
W. We're gonna
Yes.
play the latest and greatest hit by Miss J. Hear it. To now,
Right.
to then it was MTV kind of took over, and then you had to have an image. More of an you always needed an
Mm,
image, I guess. You need like even in the 50s in the doo-wop stuff, there was kind of an image, Beatles and all that. But now you look at image is like you have to be good looking and a heartthrob and this and that, teeny bopper to really push. And now the Instagrams and the TikToks of the world are creating new stars, and we're seeing it a lot in the comedy world too, where you mentioned
hmm
like mediocre people blowing up. So I feel like the marketing side is more important, which is sad to artists like us. I- If you want to make it, depending on how you want to succeed, what your success definition is,
Right.
you
Exactly.
yeah, do you have marketing outweighs the talent, and that's nuts.
Unfortunately, it is true. I actually was like, as you were saying this, I was like, I'm so happy that this is my first run being so positive about this because if you would have interviewed me a year and a half or 2 years ago, I'd probably be crying at this point or just being like, oh, I think like anything when it comes to change, it's always hard, obviously, because this is literal brain plasticity. We are a homeostasis is what we want. So I think really doing the work to understand what the fear is what I had to do. And, because I'm a millennial, but like, I remember being a kid, a very small kid, and not having the internet. And I think that that is a very distinct chasm that we
Yeah,
not really chasm, but that we have gone through. But the reality is that is not the reality now. These kids, and I say kids like I'm so much older, but
yeah.
they live on
They
this.
grew
This
up.
is
This is
this is their life.
right out of the crib.
And it like seriously, for some people, yeah,
Yeah,
my sisters really were very intense about the phones and the kids, but and what are you gonna do? You're just gonna be angry about it and then not allow your gifts to be put out there just because of this issue. And that's what I was doing. I was like, oh no, like real artists or those judgment things, right? I go like, oh, like I was an actor, like Charlie Hunnam doesn't have an Instagram because he's so talented, and
right,
because they take it seriously. And I got to the point where I was like, music is a healer. That's why I study healing. I'm trying to make gifts that I needed because music healed me to
right,
give to others. And if I was like any other entrepreneur and I had a product that I knew was, or not knew, but hoped that could help a bunch of people, the entrepreneur is not going to go, oh, well, I'm not going to market that. No, I don't want to do that. And I think as artists, we have to now consider ourselves a business. I really, this
right,
past year, I've really shifted into it's a music business,
right,
show business. People forget about the business part and
right.
then we
Yeah,
all wonder why we're just all, broke. But, well, because they don't want to pay us artists, even though they want to watch us, right?
right.
But
Yeah,
we can again talk all about that. But it's this beautiful kind of fork in the road that I feel that, especially for someone like me, and I really like this was a huge struggle for me. I had to get to the point of what the fear was. And I used to be like, all the data, all the videos, like, oh, it's so just diminishes it. But the reality is that this is how people are finding their music. They are no longer going to Virgin Records or going to the record store,
right.
going to the
Yeah,
CD store and listening and finding. They're doing this and they're waiting to see something. And that's okay. I know it's, we all watched Wally and we are like, we'll never become those
Right,
people.
exactly. That's
And now we're kind
happening.
of those people on the subway, it's just you look, it's everybody's on their phones. But I think that that's kind of the new conversation that I am forcing myself to be in. And I will say that actually at that Nashville panel, this guy said something really important that really struck me, which was just find what you enjoy doing. Like I have people that do help me with ideas for socials because, as you said, I'm Jacqueline Rial. I'm also the Miss J Experience,
Right,
so there's
yeah.
actually a lot of accounts, and I'm rebuilding them, kind of engaging with this online platform. And for idea, I'm a collaborative person, so I have people help me with ideas and what I'm doing now. I'm literally like now starting with them,
Right.
but I can build my own website and I can I can do a lot of other things myself that I don't have to spend money on. And he made that delineation clear. Like as an artist, find what you're good at. If you can build your own website, if you can do your own socials, do them. But you're gonna have to then maybe pay a booker to help you find gigs. So like, or if you hate social media, but you can book yourself gigs and you're building your own websites, then you put some money towards that and you help build that career. And I think
Right.
when I heard that, I was like, that's actually a very smart way to think about it because there's some things I love doing, and then there's some things that I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like dyslexic with numbers. I can't.
Yeah, that's
So,
how I am.
you
I'm
know,
Yeah, I hate paperwork. I can't
oh,
like I can have a
yeah,
stack of paperwork on I'll put it off until as long as I can. But yeah,
yeah.
but when it comes to creating things, I love it, and the creative process. But like you said too, it's crazy when you're, a musician or a singer or a comedian or any kind of entertainer, and then now you're faced with, there's all these memes. I didn't know I had to be a YouTuber now all of a sudden, but now you have to do it. It's part, like you said, it's part of the business. And when you're doing this, and I know you kind of struggled with actually, embracing social media and being a part of it and getting your TikTok up and running. What, like when you've decided, okay, I'm going to do this, how do you figure out what you're going to do? Like, are you going to do skits? Are you going to do just, like talk to the, like
Oh
a
yeah.
diary type of
I'm
thing?
gonna be 100% honest. I had help. First was Christy Elefante. She was on the first episode of my TV show. Well, we're gonna redistribute all those because we learned a lot about YouTube. And
Right.
she was the first person to really just call me out on like my brand. So again, similarly, when I first started, it was just me, myself, and I was making decisions out of fear. And I was a classic rock girly. So I was like, I'm not a pop singer. I don't sing and play with a guitar. So it couldn't just be Miss J. I'm pointing to like my screen. It had to be a band name. And I really like, I set up everything under this guise of a band name. And then, as you know, in marketing, that's an issue because then I'd walk into a studio or walk into another situation, like, well, where's the band? And I'm like, oh, well, it's whoever I play with and write with. And
Right.
there were so many questions and confusions. And then, um, again, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to change the name." And then it wasn't until working with Christy that, I really was able to see and not be afraid of how much I do. I think that's another thing is artists get caught up that we have to pick one thing. And I've always known that I do it all. As you said, I'm a big multi hyphenate. And why do I have to limit what I do? Because as artists, we have to monetize everything we do to even make a little bit of money. And, through that consultation and calling her like every week crying about TikTok, we ended up really kind of finding over the year the Miss J experience. And then I went through a distribution re release, which was hard. I had almost 500,000 streams on Spotify. And to redistribute, I was going to lose all of those streams. And as a little artist, I was scared. And it wasn't until
Yeah.
I worked with this incredible woman named Femke, a new producer I'm working with. Oh my God, incredible. And she beautifully called me out. She's like, I'm saying this out of respect, but you don't have a song with 1 million streams right now. And I can't find you online. And that's a problem. She was like, I was in a studio, wanted to show you to somebody else, and it was hard to find you. And I was like, say
Right.
less. And We did that. And she's like, it's a good base now. This was this past year. And she was like, and then you rebuild from there. And we used Rock House as the first distribution through my own label, through my own deal with the Orchard. I had to learn how to distribute. It took me 2 months. I've never done any of that before. And I think that I'm still finding my brand, my voice. I'm still, what social media was for me was the outer voice that was very scary for me. You post online, you don't know what's going to happen with that
Right.
post. And
Yeah.
I was really debilitated by that through a lot of my conditioning, culturally, a lot of things that I've been through. But that really debilitated everything. I mean, before I would press post, it was like, do I look okay? Do I this? And it was just like a simple video. And that
Right. Right.
really debilitated a lot of my fear of doing anything. And I'm working with somebody, giving that beautiful objective outward. And now I'm working with another other amazing women who are going to help me with ideas. Their whole job, I keep telling them, is to push me out of my comfort limits because this is where I stay stagnant. This is where I limit myself. You put me in the studio or you put a mic in my hand and put me on stage, I'm climbing the rafters. There's no
Right.
there is
Right.
no debilitation there, but my insecurities go right back up once you start going, oh, well, now I have to put this video. And I think that the number one thing is it's just okay to be confused about it all. It's
Yeah.
okay to try things. And then now that's going to be the phase we're working in is trying things and not feeling afraid. And I think what is what really worked for me is don't reinvent the wheel. That's the best thing about being online is finding those kind of people you like and seeing how their ideas can fit into your ideas. And I think as artists, we really struggle with like, oh, we don't want to copy people or, take things that are not ours because you shouldn't.
Right.
But, that's an art. Right. And
Right.
I just did this episode with this beautiful actor, Ethan, and we had this great discussion because he's a little bit younger than me. And he's really in that crux of the art content are one because his whole online presence, it's incredible. He's
Right.
really developing an online presence going to help his acting career because he
Right.
needed.
Yeah.
um we had this beautiful conversation about art and content, and I think for me actually separating the two helped. The social media is the marketing to help me get my art out there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's how I see it. Now, Ethan, because he's got great ideas, he's found a way to kind of make it all one. For me, that's what I was trying to do. And then this was like a year and a half ago, and I was trying to make like all these really amazing videos. And I'd spend all this time on this video and spend all this money. And like, it would only really give me one TikTok video. And then it got like 2 views. And then I posted like a BTS of us shooting a music video and everybody loved it because that's it. That's the veil. Social media is the veil coming down. I mean, you talked about MTV. You remember like the behind the music.
Oh yeah.
And
That
like
was
I would be like, oh my God, we get to see Aaliyah recording, or
right.
like
Right. Yeah.
like it was like I you gagged. I was like,
Right.
oh my God, I'm in the
And now,
studio with
yeah.
them. And now, people are live streaming in the studio. I don't do that. I keep that private for me, but unless we're doing like some random stuff. But I think they're just shifting. Remember, like this is all not remember, this is what I said, perspective, right? It's just a perspective shift. I think if artists were like any other entrepreneur and we're making a product, I'm going to sell this is my product, you would have to have a marketing team. You would
Right.
have
You
to
have
market
to.
your product.
Yep.
You can't have the brick and mortar without the marketing. And I think shifting into that perspective was super helpful for me, like game
Yeah.
changer for me.
I could definitely see that. Yeah, because like you said, where you see these people that are doing TikToks or Instagrams and they're influencers and that's what they do and that's their art, so to speak, versus you where you're an artist on the stage and theater and all these other things that you got going on. So it's like this challenge of wanting to make the thing art, but making it into marketing and like commercials to promote what you got going on could change your mindset and kind of help you accept it a little bit more because you know it is kind of nerve-wracking when
Yeah.
that you're
Well,
not.
I got to the point where I was like, what? I'm going to be 80 years old and miserable because I never put myself out there because I was just cranky about the fact that this is the game.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's going to make me feel good. Like, no, it's,
Truth.
how, like, because they're, the finally seeing the opposite, like you said, like there are people online, like I know somebody who's, beyond middle age and always wanted to DJ, and she put herself out there on TikTok, and now she's, living her dream. And even though her dream is not playing Madison Square Garden like mine is, but she's doing art that she's always wanted to do. And because she had this outlet, she was able to do it. And this was the same thing that happened when YouTube came out, and all of us filmmakers, I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
I was one of them, like all these, again, like as if like all these kids, making films off their iPhones
Right.
and, not seeing. And I think this is the artist struggle because we are conditioned to feel in competition, right? I see somebody succeed. That means I can succeed. No, there's enough people in this world for you to find your demographic, but that's very hard to get past because, especially as women artists, we are very conditioned that way that you see success of somebody else and it's hard to not go, oh. And that's how I used to be.
Yeah.
This is when I was acting. And it's hard to get past that. But, I think seeing, finding, the cliche of finding the joy, like I, I don't actually have that much joy in it, but I see the greater like usage because it is a way to directly speak with people and it is a way to use all of these things rather than just speaking on one thing. But it's hard. And I think that that's the other just simple thing. It's like it's hard and it's okay for it to be hard. And I'm still figuring it out. And we just found our brand and we're now building that brand. And it's not easy, but it's going to afford me more opportunities to get the music out there. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
I'd
And
say.
yeah, truth. And but I will say that I don't know if YouTube is considered social media, but that's kind of how I discovered you and I found you was on your podcast and I started watching it and I was like, wow, this woman is amazing. And then searched you up, saw your music, and I was like, I gotta touch base. So it got us here.
Yes,
So,
exactly. And I think that that is, because I do study a lot of developmental, and there's a lot, social media is also causing a lot of mental health issues. And you can just get caught up in the negative because it is very negative in
oh,
so
there's
many
so
ways.
much.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to not acknowledge how destructive it is because it is.
Yeah.
Because you really have to develop a healthy way of dealing with it. And the first time I got off of it was years ago, and it was because I had like lost like 10 followers and it affected me in a way that I really did not like. And that's when I deleted my Instagram for like a year. I did not like it
Wow.
that
Yeah.
it really affected me. This is way before I even started writing. I didn't
Right.
like how much it bothered me. But I feel that the other way is it's a connector. I had a gig recently and I had people come from Long Island to the city and I was shocked actually. Somebody came upstairs. I was like prepping and they were like, "People," and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they found me online and they
That's cool.
couldn't believe that I was not gigging as much. Now I have somebody else helping me. Yay. I was like, me too, girl. But it was a beautiful moment. And I'm a big believer in Mother Mary and those synchronicities of, because it was a tough week that week. And I like needed that little moment of going, even though there's just two people that said they found me. I forget what she said, I think on Instagram. And then she started listening to the album and, just having such a naturally organic way of meeting people. And then they bought merch and now we're friends. And now I'm texting them about the next stuff. There's a beautiful couple.
Yeah, nice.
That's why I do this. And I think that as it's creating a loneliness epidemic, a depression, all of those things, like anything, there's no yin without yang. The yang it's a uniter. It found us. I'm already like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, because that's
Right,
the
yeah.
artist in me. And
Yeah.
my TV, I don't. It started out as a podcast. This was about 5 years ago, and like anything, another business. Then I had to learn
Right,
all the
right.
back end of that, and I was like, ooh. she's
You're
doing
really
too
good
much
at it.
already.
You're really good at on the
Well, no, no,
show.
no. I will say. So then I did it in two iterations, and then a year and a half ago, I started working with this small radio station on Long Island. They're incredible. Althea, love her. And they were recording in this studio space on Long Island, and it used to be music. And then Bobby, shout out to Bobby, he brilliantly adjusted to the time and turned it into a live streaming content studio. And I watched this whole process. Then we met each other. He knew who I was. And then I realized, because what I wanted was I wanted to be able to show up and then I can go home and then I can get a file and then I can send it to my editor because I don't got the time to learn all that back end.
Right, right.
And then that relationship developed and then I was able to work with Bobby and I really wanted, I grew up in the Oprah era and I would come home era, I don't know why I said it like that. I just loved what she was doing by uniting and then gifting, right? That to me, the Oprah,
Right,
there's
right.
all those
You get a
memes.
car. You get
You get a car.
a
But that's my dream. I always say I'm hustling because I want everybody around me to get to the yacht. It's not about me, it's about all of us
Yeah.
getting to the yacht. And then I found a way with Bobby to make it more in the style of the TV show that I eventually want to really craft it into. And that only came through natural, organic relationships, which is why I don't love the word networking, relationships. And now it's affording me the ability to explore even more because I don't have to do as much of the back end. Because I said earlier, every new idea is another business and you
Right,
have to
right.
be able to handle it all. But similarly, I didn't realize like when you embed a playlist and this and that, like, and now on YouTube, we're having an issue where somebody else, some random person with this name, Miss J, for some reason it's being distributed on my YouTube page. And now it's going to be a whole nightmare to figure out how to get that off. And this happened just the other day. And
Wow.
I have another friend going through this, and it took them like years. And I'm like, so, at first I got so annoyed about it because I'm like, well, now people might think that's my music, and it's not. And then I went, another thing, and it's okay.
Right.
It's okay. We'll get to the place where I know I have a full team and they can take care of that. But like the people that are helping me right now are incredible. And like, and why I bring this up is because Jackie, not Miss J, but Jackie, like 2 years ago, would have completely crumbled about that. Oh, we set
Right.
up all this work, we put so much time, so much energy, and now this is the whole other issue that's going to take all this time, and I would have dwelled in that. But it's like, who cares? Like, again, it's like until you're at the place where, like, if Beyonce says she's going to drop something at midnight and then she doesn't, it kind of matters.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
For me, I think that's another thing too. Like, there's a beauty in being still building where it's like
Right.
you can
Yeah.
kind of work these kinks out that, ain't nobody really seeing it. TMZ is not writing about it yet.
Not yet. I feel like you're gonna break through. You got a lot going on, and you're awesome. And when you separate Jackie from Miss J, does Miss J give you strength, or like is it a different persona almost like a? Because I know you got the song, I don't give a fuck, and that kind of vibe. Is that Miss J?
Hmm.
Is that like
Let me tell you about me.
What you get is what you see in your head rent free. So bright and unforgiving, 'cause I don't give a fuck.
Yes, like I wrote that song as Miss J because Miss J is, let me tell you about me. I'm the one you want to beat. That is that, and right here,
yeah,
out.
love it.
And Jacqueline Rial was for her most of her life like this. And not that I don't love her because she's just as amazing and just as strong and, went to Columbia and is seeking a master's, will get a doctorate. We love all of that. But I think for me, and not everybody needs this, I loved giving myself that permission because there's even just a permission in saying, call me Miss J, because, that's just already kind of tweaking and forcing people to adjust to your perspective. And it wasn't actually, again, and so another shout out to Christy too. I think we went to my first gig and somebody tried to call me Jackie and she was like, it's Miss J. And I was like, ooh, tell him.
Yeah.
And, I think that it's like when I sit in the studio with my guys in Nashville, Heffley, my incredible people there that are now family. This is David Ray's people. It's crazy because when I first got there and I would say Jelly Roll, people had no idea. And
Right.
now it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
But David Ray, that is the incredible songwriter behind a lot of Jelly Roll's, I was gonna say upbringing. But being in there, I always joke that it's like Heffley, Kareem, Lenny, my bassist, Trav, when he's there, they allow Jacqueline Rial to be, because that's in the studio. I am at the purest of, because when I write, I channel. And, it wasn't until I watched that incredible documentary of the best night of pop, or about the song, the We Are the
Oh
World. It's
yeah,
on
right.
Netflix.
Right.
And Michael Jackson, as we say, separating the art from the artist, right?
Yeah.
Was a huge catalyst for me. And there's a little moment in there, because I went through this a lot with musicians. Some musicians are very intense. If you don't play, if you don't read sheet music, if you can't do an arpeggio scale, they're like, oh, you're not a musician. And I allowed that insecurity to debilitate me for a long time. And there's a little moment where Michael is talking to the bassist, and he's like, doing what I do, because I don't play, but I channel and
Right.
I hear things, and I can tell you exactly what is going to happen. And then I realized I was just not around the right musicians, because them being around these ghosts, they're like, no, this is how we speak. And, I used to think writing because I could write a song in 20 minutes, that was cocky and not good. And now it's like, no, because now we can write a whole album in a day. And
Right.
I
Right.
think that there is whatever makes you feel free. I think that, some could say, why do you need a name, right, to allow that? And I'm like, well, I did, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote IDGAF not because I'm this huge, I've been channeling a lot of Noah Lyles. He's that Olympian athlete, and he's so almost
Right.
cockily confident. I've been like channeling that a lot lately, of being like, yeah, I'm gonna win. I needed that little boost to, like, the microphone. I'm a classic rock girl. The microphone is what, that's
That's
what
the
I'm a
power.
horse, and I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
get, and I am a theater person, being on, really it's the stage itself, but that microphone is my tool of life. I'm like, Telefunken, give me the sponsorship, because I'm always
Right.
using Telefunken. Um,
Nice.
but that is my tool. That is my, especially a wireless. Like, I go from, it's like I'm a caged animal. When I'm wired, and when I'm unwired, I jump off the stage. So I think that there is this idea that, like, you have to be strong and confident to succeed. And I always love to diminish that, because then I would never succeed, because I have to fight my insecurity still. That conditioning is
Right.
still something I'm working through. I have to fight my fears. I wake up every day still having to practice my gratitude to fight all of those fears that come up for every artist, especially because, like you said, you have to be marketing, you're CEO, you're the
Do-
booker, I'm like, oh
Doing
my
it
God, I didn't
all.
email
It's a
that, I
lot.
didn't do
Yeah.
that. Oh, did I
Yeah.
book this gig? I have to get driven here. Do I have the back line for that? It's already so much. And I think that the other beautiful thing about social media is people don't want to see the polished shit anymore. Sorry, excuse my French.
Yeah. No, they
They
like to see
really
the
don't.
raw stuff.
They
And
want to see no makeup, and
yeah.
and that is a very different world, because it wasn't like that when social media first came out. And I think that that's what I'm starting to embrace, is this time, in this moment right now, is about the growth, and it is about the ugliness, and it's about the real truth of how hard this game is, and how expensive this game is, and
Yeah.
how Rock House cost me almost, $7,000, and you can stream it
Wow. Wow.
for $18 a month,
Right. Yeah.
and and then you get 500,000 streams, and you make a penny, you know.
Yeah.
So because
The board is
Spotify,
tilted. Yeah.
yeah, I had a friend say it best to remind me. He goes, sis, Spotify is a tech company that happens to be in music. It is
Right.
not a music company.
Right.
And they destroyed the game.
Oh,
And
big
that
time.
is just the reality of it. So then again, so I can sit here, cry about it, and go, wait, I just want to be, Jim Morrison with my Ray Manzarek, and
Yeah.
being emo and writing poetry, and, not caring about anything else. Or I can just say, I don't
Jump
give a
in.
fuck,
Right.
and jump in and see what happens. And, you do see these people who jump in, and then all of a sudden they're playing these massive music festivals. So why not me? And I
Exactly.
think that that is what artists don't want to say out loud. Like even I said that out loud, I go, oh my God, now people are going to be like, oh, look at her saying that,
No,
but
it's
that's
true.
the reality of why not
You
me?
have to.
And if that's what they did, oh, well, let's do it.
That's what I love about when you have something that empowers you, whether it's a different name or some people when they put on their hat or jacket or whatever it might be that gives you that strength, that gives you that,
Rock star mode.
yeah, when you truly don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
And you rock that song and it's like an anthem of sorts. And how important do you think it is in life in general and also in the industry, but to not give a fuck? And I don't mean not care about things. I mean, but not care about how you look, or they go like the saying, go, dance like no one's watching. That kind of
Right.
don't give a fuck is what I mean. Like, how
Well,
important is that?
I sometimes I'll write quotes as my, like, again, battling my conditioning. So you can retrain your brain. This is what I'm writing my book on.
Right.
People,
Yes.
they always do it with sports. You stand at that free throw line, go Knicks, Knicks in five. Jalen stood at that free throw line and threw probably a million free throws, right? People don't realize that your brain is conditioned the same exact way. So my brain was conditioned to not help me. It was hurting me. So I was thinking about that recently because that gig, I there was a couple of issues that happened and I was getting in my head about it. And I said, my goal is to just get you to experience something. What people think after that is none of my business.
Right.
And I
Perfect.
think that that is the hardest thing for me. And when I say I don't give a fuck, it's really, I don't give a fuck about what happened next. And I think that because that's what debilitates me. Because
Right.
then I'll go, oh, they might say, and they might, a
Right. You
lot of
start
this
to
comes
worry.
culturally. I was also a child of the late 90s. And, before it was cool to be Latina, it was blend in because I can pass as white. Now it's, oh my God, you don't speak Spanish, but I do, but it's like,
That's like my
it,
kids.
yeah, I always joke like J-Lo's booty made it cool to be Latina. And now all of a sudden it's, oh, ¿por qué tú no hablas? And I'm like, well, when I was little, it was blend in. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that, so it's conditioning, figuring out what your conditioning is. As a woman, there's a lot of conditioning there. And I think that the freedom for me really comes in. And I love that you're bringing up the song because I was nervous to put the song on there. That's why I call it IDGAF.
Right.
And
Right.
and I technically, because I didn't want to put the like bad words in it, I technically, this is me and Hef being sneaky, I don't say cuh. So I go, I don't give a fuck. And I'm like, so technically,
Technically, you
I
didn't
don't
say
have
it.
the cuh. But, I will say, I can flip that and go, well, why didn't I? And that's because I was afraid. But now when I sing it, now I say it.
Right.
And I think that that is, you know, fear is the biggest debilitator, and freedom comes in the release of that fear. And
Yes.
I think that that for me was the game changer because the biggest R word is release. And that is something that, musically, when I write, that is the biggest release that I
Yeah.
just like feel it leave my soul. And then what's amazing, my drummer Kareem, we did a little bit of like a documentary for the showcase we did, and he didn't know I was listening because I love Kareem. And he said, what I love the most is I'll get these demos and I call it my patter. Because when I write vocally, sometimes I'll just need to get the melody lines out and I'll be like, or I'll like say words just to like have myself remember the melody because I'm not writing words in that moment.
Right.
And he's like, so I love getting these demos where there'll just be this like little guitar and then these patter. And then all of a sudden it turns into this incredible song. And for IDGAF, I was writing with Travis and I really wanted this kind of swamp. We're in the woods of Nashville when I record. I kind of wanted this sweaty swamp rock, very Black Snake Moan, one of my favorite because I'm a
Yeah.
filmmaker at
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
Um, very Black Snake Moan could be in that kind of a film. And when we were writing it, and I was like, oh, I just said it. Like we were just writing, it just came out. And I was like, I don't give up. And just even saying that, I get the chills thinking about it. Like, was the first time I was like, oh, my Spanish father's gonna hate that. Now he loves that song.
Nice.
And that and numbing the pain, he always does it. I'm numbing the pain from you, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, But again, numbing the pain was the first time I put my spoken word in, and that's at the end of the song. Now I time on it. And I
Yeah.
had never done that. I was going to get a rapper to do it. I was going to get another friend to do it because I was like, oh, well, I can't do a little patter moment, my spoken word, and sing. Nobody really does, that's too much. It's too theatery. And then Heffley was like, absolutely not. That's why you are your support system. And I did it myself. And Hef even was like, oh, no, that's like my favorite song because that's his favorite song.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that what I would say lastly on that, because it's something I'm so passionate about, is because they do say that you get out of fear by actually being more afraid of what doesn't happen. And I never really liked that perspective because it's still rooted in fear. And I think, like being more afraid of what doesn't, like, oh, well,
Right.
what are you
What
limiting
if?
yourself? Yeah, what if?
Right.
And I don't, because I get caught up in the what if. So I don't like that. What I love instead is what are you not experiencing now that the brand what are you not experiencing just because of that fear? And I have achieved, because I was an actor and I was in entertainment and I was an MC, I was doing a lot of that. I technically didn't get into music technically, as somebody sassily said to me, because, oh, you've only been in here for so long and how did you get, only for about 2.5, 3 years. Now we're just getting into the 3.5 year mark. Um, but I say that's because in this field, in this moment, and in this space, I'm the most fearless I've ever been. And I've achieved so much because I don't care. I don't give a fuck. And I know that the goal is greater. The goal of getting to Bonnaroo at 9 o'clock so I can do what I do for the me's. I mean, that's my favorite when you roll up at a festival and you're like, I don't know who this person is. That's how I found Royal Blood. I was like, what's this sound? I want to open for Royal Blood.
Right.
That's like my goal.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I was like, what's this sound? And I like walked over there and saw two guys just going, and it was 2 p.m. Nobody was there. It was raining, and I found Royal Blood, and then I watched their journey, and then they got, blessed with the idea of like, oh, they're the new kind of class, the new rock. And I was like, I need to open for them. Um,
Yeah.
but
Awesome.
like that magic, I was like, my goal is that. So that is greater. My goal is healing. My goal is getting us all in the room so we can sweat and dance and forget about it all and just, who cares, and have those moments of release finally, because life is hard. Life is lifing. That is a greater goal than my fear. And that is a lot, just like the name, right? Like that goal allows me to get out of my own way and go, I want to be here now. And I
Right.
think that that is something that is very, you know, 3 years ago, Jackie would not be there. Just writing my songs and just sitting there was like the biggest fear moment. And I think that that's because it's a collaboration. That's the last thing is like art is collaboration. Yes,
Right.
even as an artist, if you're painting on a canvas, you're still collaborating with who you came across that day, what inspired you for that painting. And humanity is collaboration. And you're seeing that with the World Cup, right? That's
Right.
sports. And I will
Yeah.
say, you guys and your sports, oh my God, what was the first thing that everybody freaked out about when COVID? Sports.
Yeah. When sports shut
you
down.
know, sports. But I will say that, like, the sports is over there. But music, what do they do in sports? They sing. Everybody in that
Yeah.
stadium unites and sings their country song or sings their sport song. And I think that that is something that is greater than all of us. And it's definitely greater than me going, oh, I'm so insecure about my like, come on, come
Right.
on.
Yeah. Miss J, you are awesome. I wish we had more time.
I know this was amazing. Well, we're definitely doing this
Oh, we're
again because I
definitely,
have
yes.
some. I got some. We have the Warm Honey remix coming out top of August, and then there's going to be
Ah,
another
yeah.
remix after that that is going to blow everybody's mind because one of my biggest DJ idols is Sarah Landry, and we're going to have a remix that I know she can play, and I'm putting this online out there first, and
Nice.
that's going to be my TikTok. Send this to Sarah Landry, and everyone's going to go. I can't believe you're dropping a tech now. But when you hear Kareem on that drums, I mean, because when I'm in a DJ setting, I'm like, all I want to do is see live musicians playing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what we're going to bring to the world. And it's
Oh,
going to be
wow.
really exciting. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
loved watching, when I sleuthed you, I was very excited. So thank you
Same
so much
here.
for having me. This really, as independent artists, it really fuels us. Any validation from other artists to me is more fueling in many ways.
Right on.
And just, that connection really reminds us that we're not in this alone and we're all here to support one another. So I really thank you for this and doing this and what you do, because I know it's not easy either.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, and I think you're awesome, and I love your music, and I think everyone needs to check you out and check out the podcast too that you do over
Yes,
there.
the MissJExperience.com, MISSJ, the MissJExperience.com. Everything is there, and you can I'm getting better at that. My girl's going to tell me I got to say that. And, Instagram, the Miss J Experience, TikTok, the Miss J Experience. It's all one brand now. See what we're doing
Nice, there you
here?
go. I'm gonna put that nice lower third for you on this thing.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you so much.
Yeah,
Best with
same.
everything, and yeah, hopefully, I definitely want to get you back on the show, but hopefully we work together on something. I do some movies and
Oh,
things too. I know you act, so maybe we can
say
get some
less.
stuff
Because she's
cooking.
getting out there too with that. We're bringing it all. It's all comes back around. It always
Nice.
does. Have a beautiful day. Stay cool. Drink water. I'm a big
Yeah.
person. I was like, drink water. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
You're the best. Thank you.
All
Take
right,
care.
bye.
Take care.